An adventure, in the truest sense, is when you've gone into the unknown, where you're headed in a direction guided by your curiosity and not by a GPS position on your smartphone. I don't even know where I am right now, but I surely know how I got here. On this thing, the Ducati Multistrada 1260 Enduro. There is no denying that when it comes to design, the Italians are an innately talented bunch, and what Ducati has managed to do with the Multistrada is exceptionally good. To my eyes, the Multistrada Enduro is a great example of the synergy between form and function. Its signature LED headlamp, beak, deeply scooped seat, and sleek tail section are representative of the fact that a globe-trotting motorcycle can look good. And this is without taking away any of the long distance comfort that you'd expect from an ADV. Not only does the Enduro look purposeful, but it also has functional bits that ensure that you won't have to worry about riding it off the beaten track. One of my favorite bits about the Enduro are these tubeless wire spoke wheels. If these were tubed, I really dread the idea of having to fix a tube in the middle of nowhere. But as good looking or functional as the Enduro may be, there is no getting away from the fact that at least initially it might seem scary given its sheer size. Well, the Enduro still looks like a big, intimidating machine. Look at the height, look at the size of the fuel tank. This can really scare people. But looks, as they say, are deceiving. Let me tell you why. One of the biggest complaints that the Multistrada 1200 Enduro faced was that its ergonomics were a little too high and it made it difficult for people to get their feet down while riding in tricky off-road conditions. Now Ducati has been listening, which is why they've reduced the handlebar height by 30 mm. The seat height at standard is at 860 mm, whereas the suspension travel at either end has gone down by 15 mm. There's a low seat height option as well, which drops the seat height further by 20 mm. While these ergonomic tweaks have made a difference, which I'll get to later, the rest of the good bits remain unchanged. The Multistrada has always been a great long distance machine, and that's courtesy of its really sorted ergonomics. The seat is wide and comfortable, though deeply scooped. The handlebar is nice and wide, so it makes it very easy to maneuver through traffic or make your way through corners effortlessly. This screen over here is height adjustable, so you can just tuck in a little and there's no buffeting or wind blast hitting you, so you can sit at really high speeds for long durations. And when you decide to hit the trails, the revised suspension travel and handlebar position prove that the changes do work. But the best bit is, when you take this Enduro off-road, when you hit the dirt trails, that's when the ergonomics truly shine. Because you can stand here, grab the tank, place your hand on the handlebar, and maneuver yourself so easily that it just feels like second nature. Alright, now that we've established that the Enduro's ergonomics are sorted, let's fire up that engine, shall we? This is the same L-twin motor that also powers the Multistrada 1260S. And what Ducati has done is that they've managed to extract more mid-range grunt, which has significantly improved the rideability, especially in the city. This means you won't have to work the 6-speed gearbox while trundling down the street. In fact, the strong wave of torque in the mid-range ensures that the Enduro gets up to speed in a manner that's deceptively quick for a big ADV. Being a top-flight Ducati, the Multistrada is loaded to the gills with electronics. The bike has 4 riding modes: urban, touring, sport and enduro, along with an 8-level traction control system, and these ensure that you never put a wheel wrong. In the city, for instance, the relaxed throttle in urban mode, along with the engine's stronger mid-range torque, helps in everyday city traffic. Touring mode is ideal for long journeys, while sport makes this Multistrada think it's a superbike built to set lap times. I love this L-twin engine for its power, character and relentlessness in gobbling miles at serious speeds. But when you find yourself wandering down a trail, the Enduro mode just transforms the motorcycle, and how. It instantly feels easy to ride as the throttle response feels crisper and more measured, making it easier to control what the rear wheel is doing. And in case you get a little ham-fisted, the electronics cast such a wide net that you don't spend half the time worrying about dropping the bike. This is especially good for someone cutting their teeth in the enthralling world of trail and off-road riding. The suspension too has a major part to play in contributing towards the overall experience. Ducati's new generation Skyhook suspension works like a charm, and I love the way the suspension settings change when you select the riding modes. So in urban and touring you have a nice soft and pliant ride, whereas in sporty it gets a little more stiffer and you have a lot more feedback from the front end especially. So I like this thing that you can change suspension settings, you can change preload settings at the touch of a button. Switch to Enduro mode and the settings are automatically optimized for the terrain, soaking up the punishment without transferring much of it to the rider. The tires are quite adept off-road as well, and you will only need the OEM Pirelli Scorpion Rally tires if you intend to ride over sandy surfaces or soft mud. On the road, the long travel suspension and 19-inch front wheel allows you to glide over potholes and undulations without wincing in the anticipation of a huge thud. And when you come up to a set of twisties, the Enduro handles predictably, the grip from the Scorpion Trail tires seemingly never ending. As you can imagine, all these features, electronics and the Ducati badge translates to a steep price tag at Rs 19.99 lakh ex-showroom. And at this price, it is an expensive proposition. That said, you get what you pay for, and in this case, you also get the fun factor that comes bundled in with the price. But the Multistrada Enduro is a machine that still demands respect and is for those who will venture off-road. Let's get one thing clear. That Enduro there is not everyone's cup of tea. If you're intimidated by big adventure motorcycles and if you only stick to the tarmac, you're better off with the Multistrada 1260S. However, if you're one of those who can't resist the urge of riding down the trail you just spotted, this Enduro here is far more easier to ride than the previous version. It's nimble, it's easy, it's forgiving. At the same time, it has got the electronics that got your back. So even if you're taking your baby steps in the world of off-road riding on a big ADV, this 1260 Enduro has got you covered.